2.7, you calculate the INDC, the first 2.7.
Yeah.
However, it's 1 month ago, about maybe 70% of the countries submit INDC. So what's the status now?
Yeah.
After maybe more than 95% of the INDC.
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay now? Okay.
No, I think it hasn't changed much because we considered the submissions of INDCs of all the main emitters, if you like. We waited until India had submitted, and India and China in particular, mainland China, make a huge difference. So I think if we now would do the analysis, or we are doing the reanalysis, it wouldn't change much. Maybe it goes down to 2.65 or something. This is the expectation. I have to say it again. If nothing else would be done, but if all the INDCs would be fully implemented, and you know, when policymakers promise something, it's not always so that they fully hold their promise.
So right now it's not 2.7. However, the Paris Agreement, they mentioned is 1.5 and the 2 degree, two choice. And however, it's far from the INDC. How do you think about that?
No, absolutely. Here at the end, I hope we will have an agreement to stay as much as possible below 2 degrees, possibly even reach 1.5 degree, and we clearly are not there. So, but we have come at least halfway, I would say, because when we did our analysis with the Climate Action Tracker 2 years ago, we were close to 4 degrees warming by the end of the century. So you see, we have more or less done half of the mileage we have to cover, but this should encourage us to do more. We clearly have to go further down that road, and hopefully this agreement will help us to do it, because it will include a review mechanism, I hope, which precisely means do not stop at 2.7, go down below 2 degrees.
So what about the 5 degree? You mentioned previous calculation is 4 degree, and one assumption is 5 degree.
Yeah,
Is it happen?
Now this would be if there would be no climate policies implemented. If we would do what we call business as usual, the world just keeps on using fossil fuels, economies also in Asia are growing in the old way, then we would end up with probably 4 to 5 degrees warming by 2100, but even 8 to 12 degrees in 200 or 300 years from now. It would be a completely different planet, and of course we have to do everything to avoid that.
What will the world become when the temperature rises 4 to 5 degrees? That would be a very big disaster.
Yes, it would. Probably our civilization would be at stake. We have done at the Potsdam Institute a huge report for the World Bank. In 2012, it was called Turn Down the Heat. It reached more than 1 billion people, you have to imagine. And it was precisely how would a 4 degrees warmer world look like. And we simply have seen that in particular in the tropics and the subtropics, Taiwan is part of the subtropics, you would have tremendous changes. Agriculture would in the end fail in many places. You would have natural disasters at a scale which we couldn't manage anymore. We probably would have waves of refugees. We have a refugee crisis in Europe right now, but compared to what would happen in a world 4 or 6 degrees warmer, that's nothing really. We would probably have migration in the hundreds of millions of people. So we need everything to avoid that.
Did you ever predict that the sea level, how many meters will rise when the temperature is 5 degrees?
I mean, the conservative assumption is sort of published by the IPCC, the World Climate Council, is about 1 meter by the end of the century, which is already a lot, of course. If the world would warm by 4 degrees, in the long term we would probably have sea level rise of 10 meters. If the world would warm 8 to 12 degrees, if we burn all the fossil fuels we have, it would be 50 meters. And that would mean all the coastlines we know now are more or less disappearing.
So the Paris Agreement was a decision by a lot of politicians. The politicians make the decision. However, probably it's far from the scientists expect. What do you think? To be a scientist, do you have any comment about this? The politicians make the decision is far from you expect.
Yeah, but it is our role in a democracy, you know. You have the experts, you have the voters, you have the business people, and you have the politicians, and it's a division of labor. I can only shine a light on the problem, but it's my duty to create as much light as possible and to shed this light on the landscape of challenges and solutions. In the end, the decisions have to be made by society, and the politicians are the representatives of society. They have a huge responsibility, actually. So if they do not listen to people like me, history may judge them, actually, in a very negative way.